The bell rang, and like every other day, Ethan lowered his head and tightened the straps of his backpack, preparing for the familiar walk through the school hallway gauntlet. He was 12, small for his age, and the oversized glasses he wore only made him an easier target. The same group of boys, Ryan, Marco, and Jason, were already waiting by his locker. "Hey, Nerdinator!" Ryan sneered. "Where's your lab coat today? Forget your potions, wizard." The other two howled with laughter. Ethan didn't reply. He never did. He just kept his eyes on the floor and quietly turned the lock to open his locker. But before he could, Marco slapped the books out of his hands. The laughter echoed down the hall. Ethan gathered his books, his ears burning with shame. No one intervened. Not the teachers who pretended not to see. Not the students who looked away. He felt invisible, until the bullying started. Then he was all too visible. It was the same, every day. Until one afternoon. Ethan often took the long route home to avoid crossing paths with his bullies. That day, clouds were thick and gray, and a storm was brewing. As he hurried past the old train station, he noticed an elderly man standing still near the curb, tapping his cane along the edge of the sidewalk. The man wore dark sunglasses and had a white cane. Clearly blind, and clearly lost. Ethan hesitated. He was late. His mom would worry. But something in the old man's confused, helpless stance made him stop. "Sir," Ethan said softly, "do you need help?" The man turned toward the voice and smiled faintly. "Ah, young man. Yes, actually. I'm trying to get to 4th and Pine. But I think I got turned around." Ethan knew the place. It was near the library. It was also quite a walk from here. "I can take you there," Ethan offered. "I live close by. It's no trouble." The man's face lit up. "That would be very kind. I'm Mr. Alden." "I'm Ethan." With that, Ethan gently took Mr. Alden's arm, and they began walking slowly together. Along the way, Mr. Alden asked Ethan about school. Ethan hesitated at first but eventually shared how tough things were, how he was picked on, laughed at, and made to feel small. Mr. Alden didn't interrupt. He just listened, nodding quietly. When they reached the corner, Mr. Alden said, "Ethan, would you come back tomorrow? I take a walk every afternoon. It would be nice to have some company." Something in Mr. Alden's gentle voice felt safe, warm, and sincere. Ethan nodded. "Sure." And so it began. Every day after school, Ethan would walk to the old train station and find Mr. Alden waiting, cane in hand. They'd walk for an hour or so, sometimes in silence, sometimes sharing stories. Mr. Alden told Ethan about his youth, how he lost his sight in an accident decades ago, how the world had changed in ways he could only imagine. In return, Ethan slowly opened up about his life, his father gone, his mother working long shifts at the diner, his loneliness, and how he didn't feel like he mattered to anyone. But Mr. Alden always smiled and said the same thing, "The world is full of noise, Ethan. But listen closely, and you'll hear your worth." One day, Mr. Alden paused on a bench and gently touched Ethan's shoulder. "You have a kind heart, Ethan. That is your power. Never hide it." Ethan didn't say anything, but those words echoed in his mind for days. Weeks passed, and something in Ethan began to change. He started speaking up in class. When he saw another student getting teased, he stood by them. He even raised his hand during a science presentation and spoke with a confidence he didn't know he had. One afternoon, during a school cleanup event, a kid from another class tripped and dropped a tray of paints. Everyone laughed, except Ethan. He rushed to help. The art teacher saw everything and smiled. From that day, things began shifting. Some students still mocked him, but others began noticing the quiet boy who helped people, who stood up when it mattered. But the real change came unexpectedly. It was a Friday afternoon when Ethan arrived at the train station and found no sign of Mr. Alden. For the first time in months, he was late. Ethan waited nearly half an hour, pacing anxiously. Finally, he asked around and learned from a shopkeeper that Mr. Alden had been taken to the hospital earlier that day. He'd collapsed near the bakery. Heart pounding, Ethan rushed to the local clinic. After convincing the nurse to let him in, he found Mr. Alden lying in a bed, weak but smiling. "I knew you'd come," Mr. Alden whispered. "What happened?" Ethan asked, voice shaking. "They say it's my heart," Mr. Alden replied. "Old thing's just tired." Ethan sat by his side for hours, refusing to leave. Before he left that evening, Mr. Alden reached into his coat and handed Ethan a small envelope. "Open this when you get home." Ethan nodded and left quietly. At home, under the dim light of his desk lamp, Ethan opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. "Dear Ethan, if you're reading this, I may not have many walks left. But I need you to know what you've given me: companionship, hope, and a reason to keep going each day. You saw me not as a burden, but as a person. In return, I've made some arrangements. I've written to your school principal. I've shared everything about our walks, your kindness, your bravery. I've also left a gift in my will for your mother, to help with your future. You matter, Ethan. Never let anyone convince you otherwise. You are light in this world. With love and pride. Mr. Alden." Ethan wept that night, not just from sadness, but from the overwhelming feeling of being seen, truly seen, for the first time. The following Monday, the school held a surprise assembly. Ethan sat quietly near the back, confused when Principal Saunders took the mic. "We often overlook quiet acts of kindness," she began, "but today, we celebrate one." She shared Mr. Alden's story, how Ethan had helped him daily, how he'd shown compassion without reward or recognition. The entire hall fell silent. Ethan's name was called, and he was invited to the stage. He walked slowly, trembling, unsure of what to say. But when he looked out at the students, all watching, all listening, he remembered Mr. Alden's words: "You have a kind heart. That is your power." He took the mic and said softly, "I was bullied for being different. But helping someone taught me that kindness changes everything. Mr. Alden showed me that being kind isn't weakness. It's strength." The entire room stood and applauded. Even Ryan, the boy who'd mocked him for months, looked stunned. Later that day, Ryan approached him quietly in the hallway. "Hey. I didn't know," he mumbled. "About the blind guy. Or, you. I'm sorry, man." Ethan gave a small smile. "It's okay." That moment didn't erase everything, but it started something new. Months passed. Ethan continued visiting Mr. Alden in the hospital until the old man peacefully passed away in his sleep. The school planted a tree in his memory near the playground, with a plaque that read, "In honor of Mr. Alden, who reminded us that even the smallest kindness can leave the biggest mark." Ethan became a student leader, organizing kindness drives, tutoring younger students, and starting a Buddy Walk program, where students volunteered to walk with elders after school. It became a tradition. And years later, long after Ethan had grown into a confident, compassionate young man, he'd still visit that tree and sit beneath its branches, remembering the blind man who saw him clearer than anyone else ever had. In a world where cruelty often shouts the loudest, kindness speaks in quiet, powerful ways. You never know what someone is carrying, or how a single act of compassion can change not just a life, but a community. Ethan was once invisible. But because he stopped to help, he found his voice, his strength, and his purpose. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, Pure Kindness Stories. Every like, every comment, every share helps us keep spreading love and light. Let's build a kinder world, together.